Welcome back to Sales Insights with Sarah. This is the podcast for sales professionals and business leaders looking to implement new strategies and drive sales growth in their organizations. I'm your host, Sarah Downs, and my guests and I will be sharing with you some of our own experiences in business and sales insights to help you gain focus and take action. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Sales Insights with Sarah podcast. So you guys have heard me talk a lot about selling like a nurse, selling with empathy. And I am delighted today to have Amelia Roberts here with me, who is the first person I have ever come across who also talks about selling and doing business like a nurse and with empathy and as human to human. So I'm delighted to have you here with me, Amelia. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm thrilled to be here. We only had to find each other on Clubhouse over an ocean to find the other person in the world. Maybe there's more of us, who knows? But I was very excited to find you, Sarah.
Hopefully after this episode, we'll see other nurses,
Yes,
business, marketeer, salespeople coming out of the woodwork going, I'm in that club too.
I think
Um,
so.
hopefully.
I think
So
so.
Amelia is just amazing. We've done a couple of clubhouse rooms together over the last couple of months. And I say Amelia Roberts, aka the B2B matchmaker, as I read on your bio. And I would love to just go, I guess, back a little bit, Amelia, and share with the listeners about your background, because I think that will really help set the scene for this episode. So if you would like to share your story, that would be amazing.
Sure, sure. So I was a connector since birth. I love connecting people with people and matchmaking and matching things up and putting things together that should be groups together. I'm just a fan of that. I don't know if you know the personality test, but Colby, I'm like an 8 on the fact finder scale. And that's just something, fact finder 8. So I just love that sort of type of thing. And long story, when it came to thinking about, what to do when after school and all that stuff, what was laid out to me, one, I come from a family of teachers and nurses. So what was laid out to me was to become a teacher or a nurse. And my mom said she'd pay for school if I became a nurse. So that's what I did. The sales profession wasn't necessarily laid out to me as like a viable option. I did enter into selling, direct sales when I was like 19 with of good family friends that did extremely well in that industry. So they helped to sort of demystify that profession. But again, it wasn't necessarily a profession that you left a credentials like, nursing to go into. So long story short, that's how I ended up in nursing. And then along the way, there came a time for me to pay off student loans, a second round of student loans. And I said, you know what, I at this point, I wasn't in a position to work extra shifts. I was like, what else can I do to pay off student loans? And I had friends who had entered into the online business world in 2007. And around that time, they had a class around how to become a virtual assistant. They had done well with their business. They had entered the online business world and ended up working with the Googles, Oracles, and Facebooks of the world in the corporate side. And I said, you know what, you can start working for yourself. You can work with large companies. Why not just do that? And that's sort of what I did.
Okay. So I guess how long have you been a nurse? How long have you been registered nurse?
I 2006. I'm not great at math. So
Okay.
well over 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess what type of nursing were you involved with? Were you frontline? Were you in the clinics? What were you up to?
Yeah. So I never was frontline. Going through nursing school, I knew enough to stay out of med surge. And so I never was there. But it's I all different sides, from infusion nursing to research nursing to ENT to rheumatology, probably a few other specialties in between, event medicine, working marathons, concerts, events. And I'm in case management now.
Okay. So what I would love to ask you is what transferable skills have you taken from nursing into the world of business in which you're now working? And when you first got started, what did you feel was really missing in the world of business?
So when I realized that I had to pay off student loans in a short amount of time. I'm married. I'm also a married lady. My husband was reading a book around about personal finance, and he was like, "We could pay off these loans if we, really hit them hard." And I was like, "Yes, I also like, things." So I said, "You know what? That's a good impetus to start a business. Why not?" So when I started my business with the goal of generating income, I found out I was in a spot where I had to find customers. And so it made me think about who can I serve? Who can I assist? Um, I'm learning about how to use social media because I'm a digital native. I knew how to use social media, but then I had to take classes and courses how to use it professionally. So after I learned how to use it professionally, I was like, I know more about social media for professional use than a lot of people. Who can I serve? And so that who can I serve? Who can I help? Who can I save? That was straight from nursing. So that curiosity in sales, that's huge. It's hard to teach somebody who's coming into sales how to be curious about the prospect or the future customer. But that sort of innate curiosity I have. Well, one, it is innate. I was kind of born with it, but my career in nursing helped refine that curiosity so that I can make it turn on and scan the world for people that I can serve. And once I found them, that conversation, that curious conversation, that empathetic communication about, hey, you know what, I know that you might be struggling with this. Do you think that this other thing might serve you? Having those sales conversations, again, that have nursing to thank for that. And then having a few of those, and that's how I got my first clients. So there's just so many. Critical thinking absolutely plays a part in it too. That's transferable from nursing. Coming into a problem, a situation, and having to assess what should happen first, second, and third in a short amount of time. We don't have all day here to solve problems in nursing, and same in business. When you're working with a client who's brought you in to solve a specific problem, they don't have all day for you to figure out where to start and what deliverables should look like based on the needs that they have. So, and I could go on and on, but there's so many skills that have transferred well into business.
I'd love to go back to what you said about curious conversations.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. And in sales and in sales training, sales coaching, business, we talk a lot about the consultative sell. And what I realized very quickly was a lot of people could ask questions, and you could even script questions for another person to ask. But I think the one key transferable part from nursing is the active listening, truly being able to listen to more than what's verbally coming, from somebody. So for example, if you were in the ward and you had the little old lady and you're saying, "Are you in pain?" And she's going, "No, I'm okay," because she didn't want to be a nuisance, but her observation machines are going crazy and her body language tells you a completely different story. And you know that you have to act. And I would love to know how you feel that's helped you when you compare yourself to other professionals. And you maybe take these things for granted to start with, but I think you get to the point where you realize it really is a special skill set and a real strength when it comes to these curious conversations.
So I know exactly what you're talking about. So traditional sales training that I have seen has prepared these poor little sales reps with their little list of questions that they need to ask, and they got to ask these questions. Um, and in this stage of being in 2021, all of us know when we're being put through a process. We don't like being felt like we're being, put through a process, whether you call it BANT or a challenger or whatnot. We can tell, when that's happening to us, and it feels weird, it feels off on both sides. It just does. And not that there isn't information that you need to gather in order to help the person make a decision. When you listen with curiosity, there is a running mental checklist in the back of your head. Absolutely. But does your future customer need to feel like they're going through a checklist? They don't. Just like nursing, when we do a head to toe assessment, right? In the back of our head, we have systems that are being checked off, but we're not saying to the patient, now I'm taking your blood pressure. I'm also watching your chest, movement to see what your breathing looks like. We don't, that doesn't need to be said. So it just takes, it really does take the process of internalizing, I think, that checklist, or internalizing the information that you need to gather in order to make a decision. And then leading with curiosity, because nursing school, it causes you to internalize a lot of information. Um, and I feel like when you become more masterful at sales, yes, that checklist that you need to get, that will help you to guide the person to a decision that will benefit them, you can absolutely internalize that in a similar way, and then have conversations that aren't pointless and going around the bush and blah blah blah. It's a guided conversation, a curious conversation to help the person to make a decision. But yes, you are, getting information that will help the person better. But you don't have to necessarily, like I said, be married to a list of questions that you need to move the person to, because that's odd. That's odd. It just is.
And it happens all the time, especially in sales. And I guess even marketing, when, especially in larger businesses, when the marketing team are tasked to go out to the marketplace and do a survey of clients or prospects and ask questions, and they feel, again, they're being put through this process, and it's not for them. They understand that there's 100 people being asked exactly the same questions as they are, and often there is no room for maneuver there. It's very direct, it's very black and white, instead of having more, I guess, conversation, where you can take that wherever it needs to go with that particular individual. And as you know, if you could have 10 patients, if you ask them all exactly the same thing, it's not going to fit. It's never a one size fits all. It's like that symptom checking, or it's called different things everywhere in the triage. When you're trying to get enough information to understand which diagnostic, I guess, tests to run, and going right back to the start is similar in sales. You have to start, I guess, qualification really, really early on, and depending on the symptoms that are showing in that particular, I guess, conversation and what you're seeing within a business, it depends on where you need to take that conversation. But often, as you said, these poor little sales reps are given the 10 top questions, 5 top questions, and because it's never one size fits all, it doesn't really help them.
Yeah,
And they're taught to ask questions, but not really being taught to listen.
yes, and I feel like, those questions again, there's ways to, ask a question in a different way, than feeling like you have to be married to the script. And I really feel like, this might be a topic for another day. When you have internalized, I keep using that word, the solution that you're offering, or the product that you're offering, or the service that you're offering, when you believe in it so much, there is almost a sort of almost intuitive element that can kind of turn on, where you just know, like, how to get to the information that you need. Yes, the script or the question that you need to ask is one way to get to it, but you also know other ways to get the information that you need in order to support, and to facilitate the conversation.
Absolutely. And have there been any other skills that you've realized have transferred over from nursing that you may have almost taken for granted at the beginning, because you maybe hadn't realized that they were just so innate to you and your background and your experience?
Besides the curiosity, besides that, I'd also have to say pattern recognition, being able to teach. Um, I've had a challenge teaching other people how to recognize patterns. And in nursing, that's something we quickly are able to go into a room and notice when something's off, or when one thing doesn't seem like all the others. And in business world, it's really has been very helpful to be able to recognize patterns in whether it's thoughts, thinkings, behaviors, and being able to recognize that, and then adjust, whether it's a sales conversation or adjust marketing efforts, or any number of things. You can adjust it once you notice a pattern is happening. Um, Another thing that with nursing that I've noticed, has transferred over into business, is the ability to start conversations, to start and have conversations. We are, expected to go into rooms and start, conversations with strangers and be able to get very deep very quickly in a short amount of time with people that we just don't know too much about. Yes, we come in there as a nurse, and that, brings us further along the quote selling process, where they're trying to sell somebody on a treatment or procedure. But it's just the ability to have conversations and get to the important bits of the conversations in a short amount of time. That skill that I honed in that profession really has transferred well into sales.
Yeah, I love that. And I hear a lot of people in sales talking about relationship and rapport as if they're one thing. And I would love your opinion on this. I always feel like when you first go into that room with that patient, what you're aiming to do is build rapport very quickly. You're potentially dealing with them at the most vulnerable point in their life and their loved ones, and it can be very scary for them. So the building of rapport, I personally think relationship takes time, but you can build rapport and trust very quickly. But I see so many people trying to pull those two things almost into one in the business world, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So I am more of a fan of creating opportunities for engagement, for engaged conversation. However you want to describe it. Okay, people have different definitions to things, but I really like the idea of having a conversation where the parties are engaged. Does it look like rapport building? Does it look like relationship building? I'm more attached to that idea, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense.
That does. Yeah, no, it definitely does. I guess with engagements, they can be positive or negative, depending on how they go. But so if it was a more negative conversation or pushback quite early on, the rapport probably would be missed. But it's certainly a relationship, because there's two-way conversation.
Yeah,
one way. So I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah. There's a company that I am crushing on right now, Drift there, and I don't work with them. I have no affiliations. I'm not an affiliate, but I could be. But in any case, no, I'm not. I don't have any relationship with them. But
sure
Drift.
Have the episode.
So yes, there you go. I should do that. But Drift, they have a framework called their sales framework is called Engage, Understand, and Recommend. And engage is where you're asking questions and acknowledging responses. You're showing curiosity, and then that goes into understanding, understanding them and, the conversation and their responses, and, based on what they're saying, you're recommending the next best action or the next best, maybe even piece of content to help them make a decision. And then, of course, a recommendation. It might be their product, it might be something else, it might be nothing at all, but that engage, understand, recommend framework is something that I'm loving a lot, more than some of the other, I guess, relationship building process definitions that I've seen out there.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check them out. Drift. And what type of business are Drift?
Yes, so chatbots, they're more eloquently than just chatbots, but because of, and we might even talk more about that, because of the consumerization of business, and I call it humanization, but we can tell again when we're being put through a process and we don't love it. And in the B2B world, a lot of us are demanding almost more to be treated more like a consumer. Amazon, Uber have spoiled us. We're used to getting what we want when we want it, but then when we're in B2B selling situations, there can be a lot of friction. There can be a lot of forms to be filled out. And, you fill out a form and then you have to wait 2 days, and then a rep will call you back. And then the rep might ask you questions that were already on the form. It's just a very complicated process. But Drift is a chatbot application that simplifies all of that, that takes the friction out of B2B selling in a way that has been very interesting to me and not like something I see a lot. And I'd love to see more of.
I love that. And I know you talk a lot about selling like a nurse, marketing like a nurse, really just doing business like a nurse, pitching with purpose. So I guess with the businesses you're working with right now, Amelia, what are some of the key traits that you're seeing that I guess you're going in to, provide a solution to?
Mhm. So you're asking about the challenges that they're
The
facing.
business have, yeah.
So they are, generally speaking, they are professionals who have found themselves leading sales and marketing decisions, and they'd rather not be. That's the fact. They'd rather be doing other things. They'd rather be serving their clients, or if they're inside of an organization, they have other projects that they're being responsible for, and they just don't have time to find their future champions, customers, and cheerleaders. They just don't have time for that. They do believe that they can grow quickly by way of finding the right strategic partnerships. They know that that's how they want to go and that grow, but they don't have time to find those strategic partnerships. And then once they do identify the people that can help expand, whether it's their brand awareness or even be potentially, channel partners or affiliates, they just don't have time to find and have that conversation and bring them on board. And so I come in and help them to set up that program. I also have a team that can help implement that program. And when it comes to, even, like I said, just figuring out who they might need to collaborate with, or who could they collaborate with, and what does that look like, and then what do they say? That's another part. Once we identify the people that might be great channel partners or affiliates or cheerleaders or strategic partners, what do you say in a way that will make them want to come on board and give you access to their hard-earned audience? What would make you interesting in that way? And so there's a messaging component involved with that as well.
I love that. And it amazes me you're managing to still be a case manager and do all of this as well. So
Yeah, I
you're just
have
a very purpose-driven individual.
yes, I have a team. So full transparency, I have a team. I do have a lot of people who are able to support. I enjoy doing the strategy. I enjoy doing the matchmaking. I enjoy um, brainstorming matches. I think that's fun. And yeah, I started doing this because I realized that I have a gift for figuring out who people need to be talking to. I guess that's the matchmaker in me. I have a gift for figuring that out. And being in the world of business for over 10 years, I'm able to see matches and collaborations that people don't easily see. And also being in healthcare and interfacing with so many different vendors over the course of my years in healthcare, seeing the business side of healthcare is really easy for me to see lucrative collaborations that my clients need to have in their life. And so that's not necessarily something that takes me, it doesn't take me 12 hours to figure that out. And it really doesn't take me another 40 hours to figure out messaging. But it's been a beautiful thing that I've been able to add into my role, other roles and hats that I have.
I love that. And taking, I guess, the collaboration, the partnership more internal to organizations, from working as a nurse and a case manager, you're obviously used to working in a very multidisciplinary team because no one person can give that patient everything they need. It always takes so many of us. And I wonder whether when you're now working within business, that you're quite good at making sure you create alignment between sales and marketing and operations, because you're naturally probably quite used to pooling on different resources in this multidisciplinary team in the healthcare setting.
Yeah, I think so. Not I think, I know so. It's like my entire career. I've been on teams where it's been cross-functional, working with different stakeholders, different decision makers, and even just the role of nursing. That's a cross-functional role. You have one patient, but that one patient is also being seen by a neurologist, cardiologist, nephrologist, and all these other specialties, but they have one nurse who is sort of, in the US, we have a term called quarterbacking, but the nurse is the pinpoint person that's, orchestrating everything to make sure that it's supporting the patient. And if something is, not going as expected, they're the one that's communicating back to the team member that needs to know about it, that, hey, we need this done, we need this change. This isn't the desired response. We need to try, something else. And most likely they're also the ones making the suggestion of what to do next. But to a variety of stakeholders. So, and when I'm working with organizations that are involved, that, there's, again, like you said, like we're touching more than one person, or more than one department. That's sort of how my brain works anyway.
And that's probably something else that was maybe probably has been transferable from your nursing, that at the beginning maybe take for granted. I know I did. And we also see these sort of operations, sales, marketing, finance quite siloed within organizations. And I think that's the main challenge for many organizations, is these teams don't understand how to work together for the greater good, so that that client really gets the solution in which they need, not only communicated to them, but also delivered, and that it's kept going. And it's so important. And we're always talking about alignment of sales and marketing, or misalignment of sales and marketing teams. So I think it's great that there's, would you call yourself a consultant? Like consultants like yourself coming in?
Yes. Yes, I would. And I'm starting to see like those silos in certain organizations starting to come down. In healthcare, I'm starting to see it more closely because because I'm there. But I'm also starting to see it on the business side. I'm starting to see, especially in the United States, that there are roles called head of revenue. And these head of revenue positions, it's like they're over top of marketing and sales. That sort of like reporting structure. So, and I'm also seeing teams that where marketing isn't, and sales is like they're team members. They're working together. They're not siloed and competing against one another, which is the silliest thing. And I see that. Yeah, that's maybe another topic for another day. But that head of revenue, title is a beautiful way to start to see yourself as we're one family. We have the same goal. Let's work together. And the sales professional, they have great insights for the marketing team when it comes for the collateral. As somebody who has been an early hire in several different organizations who haven't quite hired sales reps, don't know if I talked about that at all, but as a consultant, right before that, they hired their VP of sales and brought me in. And I've been in that position, having those conversations with people, and not having the marketing collateral that I needed to explain that, because as in healthcare, especially healthcare sales, nobody wants to do anything until they know other people have done it first. So just having that customer, not just that case study, but that customer evidence. I want to even say evidence. It's more than a case study that's needed, but evidence, having that quickly at your hands is, something that that sort of relationship with sales and marketing is just so important.
Yeah. And it's something I'm really passionate about. And I do think a lot of that has come from working in that multidisciplinary team, where there was just this flow. I worked in a trauma orthopedic unit. So we had the surgeons, we had the physiotherapists, the osteopaths, the nurses, everyone had to come together. And even, the paramedics, etc. When they first came in to the units, we just had to work together. And if we didn't, someone would die. So there was no give. So, that you were aligned for the greater good of, this patient's care. And when I first came into the world of business 10 years ago, I was quite surprised at how disjointed it was. Even sales teams competing against sales teams within one organization. And it's like, surely it should be working together for the customer, so they get the solution they need, and they get the value and the treatment, if you like, that they need at this particular point in time. And like you, I have seen some of these walls start to come down, not only in organizations in which we work, but just across the board. And the CRO role, or the Chief Revenue Officer, we often call it here, so head of revenue, I think you're absolutely right. I think that has been a focal point where the two are having to kind of come under one umbrella a little bit more than they did before. And also because this online and social selling, way of selling has obviously hit us in the last decade as well, much more than it had before. And places like LinkedIn at first were very much seen as a marketing platform, as a marketing tool. And then obviously we've had to educate that it's not just a marketing tool, it's really a sales tool, and overall business just where to build relationships and connect, and human to human. I like talking about way more than B2C, B2B, and siloing, that as well. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. I would also love to ask you about your mission, Amelia. You're obviously a very purpose-driven individual. You're out there doing amazing things. You're adding value to so many people in every role that you're involved with. What is your overall mission, your goal? Where are you headed?
I So there's a phrase that or this quote that like it speaks to like who I am as a person. It's from Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, and a guy who knows a thing or two about connections. And he says opportunities do not float like clouds in the sky. They're firmly attached to individuals. So if you're looking for opportunity, you're really looking for people. And I am super passionate about helping professionals who have a great product or who have a great service to move that product from the shelf of life, whether it's the actual shelf or just something in their head, and into the lives of somebody who needs it. I feel as though that withholding good from someone else is like the highest act of selfishness. And I really do want more people who have a valuable service and or product to offer the world to feel empowered and to get that to the person that needs to have it the most. And what there's different ways that one can call it, but really it's connecting professionals, purpose-driven professionals, professionals who have something to offer, a mission, an impact to make with their ideal cheerleaders, their ideal collaborators, their future clients. It really is what something that makes me super happy.
Amazing. And that aligns something I read on your bio, which was nurse by trade, product marketer by heart, which I loved. But and just everything you talk about, leading with purpose, and I know when you're talking about sell like a nurse, marketer like a nurse, you're talking about empathy and compassion and humanism. And I just love that. I think it's amazing. And where can my listeners, I guess, learn more about you and the work that you're doing? Where's the best places for them to go online?
Sure. So I am hanging out more on LinkedIn these days. I'm doing even professional water cooler chats, LinkedIn lives over there. So connect with me over there. I'm Amelia J. Roberts, visibility expert. And also I have a podcast called Confident Collaborations, where I talk about all manner of collaborations out there. And also have a blog called The Business of Nursing, but really LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with the listeners over your listeners over there on LinkedIn.
Okay, well, I'm going to be sure to put your links to, I think you've got a YouTube channel as well, and the
Yeah.
website and your LinkedIn. So for anyone that's listening, please check out the show notes, and everything will be linked in to make it easy to get in touch with Amelia. And please do connect and follow her story, because I'm pretty sure you've got some awesome things going to happen, because you're out there putting out great vibes, great energy, and you do everything with purpose, and you really
Thank
care
you.
for people, which is
Thank you.
amazing. So I'm aware of time. I know we just have a couple of minutes left. But I just wonder if you could give the listeners just a couple of tips, maybe 2 to 3 tips on how to do sales and marketing more like a nurse. What would they be?
Stay steeped in curiosity. Nurses, we don't um, cut poison or burn problems away. We don't do that. We don't prescribe typically. So when we go into a situation, we literally don't know how and if we're the best person to help. Maybe this person needs a higher level of care. I did triage for a time, and maybe maybe this is something I can't, handle over the phone. Maybe they need to come into the emergency room. And so I invite people in sales situations to approach those conversations with similar curiosity, and really like I don't suspend knowing the thing the person needs to do. Just be open to getting information and gathering information and being curious and asking questions almost intuitively to find out, not intuitively, but asking questions that make sense to that circumstance to guide the person through a decision-making process. Because when it comes to high stakes, when it comes to high stakes decisions, we all get a little scared. We get a little nervous, in the B2B world, we're looking for a solution. Maybe our job's on the line. Maybe we need someone to come in and help us, so that we can win and look good for our boss, or so that we don't mess up in a big way and we need help that we don't currently have inside. And, we might be a little scared and a little fearful. So as a salesperson, definitely think about how you are creating a safe place for that person to be guided through a high stakes situation where a lot might be on stake for them. Show yourself as a guide to get that person to a win in their life. And I feel like you'll be finding that having these sales conversations are that you'll feel more confident, and the person that you're trying to serve, your future customer, will also feel more safe. And I feel like you'll be having more conversations that go in your favor more often than not.
I absolutely love that. I think that is the perfect way to end this episode. And I hope everyone was taking notes there. And if not, rewind and go back and get the notebook at the ready. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for adding value to my community. I really appreciate your time, especially on a Saturday. I know I'm taking an hour of your Saturday. So thank you so much, Amelia. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Love it. This has been fun. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Insights with Sarah podcast. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, so that you are notified of every new episode. If you could take a few minutes to leave a review, it would be greatly appreciated. See you next time.